Recording in progress.
I'd like to call to order the Design Review Board meeting of February 7th, 2023. And I'd like you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, if we could introduce our staff and the board members.
Shubha Jangam, Senior Planner.
Michael Cardiman, Planner 2.
Casey Robinson, Bethany Road.
Doug Haney, Bethany Way.
Reed KC, Bethany Road.
Charlie Roberts, Freemanville Road.
Ken Warlick, Hipworth Road.
Rachel Greathouse, Hickory Flat.
All right. Next, we're going to approve or amend the agenda. And Shubha, we're not seeing.
Yeah, I don't see the opposite. So let's go to.
Yeah, let's just stay like we are. So could I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll motion to approve tonight's agenda for February 7th.
No, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The agenda is approved. Next, I'd like to get a motion or amendments to last month's meeting, the January 3rd meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the January 3rd meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, next, let's move to demolition, but we have no demolitions tonight, so we'll pass on to our courtesy reviews. Item 6A on the agenda has been postponed, deferred to March 7th. So we'll move on to item 6B. Is the applicant here for 6B?
Yes.
Okay, if you could come forward.
Yes.
And this item 6B is 2935 Manor View Lane.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Tom Pye. I'm the attorney for my friend and client Bruno Manui, who is here and who is the applicant. I didn't know whether you wanted to hear from him personally or me or both.
It's your team, however y'all want to do it.
Well, why don't I say what I've come to say? First of all, let me say this. It's a pleasure to be in the City Hall for the city of Milton. I was born and raised in Atlanta. My father was a Superior Court judge, which is an elected position, as you may know. And so every few years, at election time, we would drive from South Fulton to North Fulton to campaign. The city of Milton was, I believe, part of Alpharetta then. At any rate, it was North Fulton. So this is my first time, and I'm pleased to be here, honored to be here. This application for variance by Mr. Manui is with respect to the building setback line on the side of his property, which is by ordinance 25 feet, and a pavilion has been constructed 18.43 feet. So there is a 6-foot encroachment, shall we say. And we are here to ask for a variance of that ordinance. The violation, and clearly it is a violation, it's on the ground, is and was unintentional and is innocent. And I know you'll consider that in reviewing this matter. Last year, Mr. Manui entered into a contract with Crystal Water Pools for the construction of a pool, a pavilion, and a deck on the back of his house. By contract, Crystal Water Pools was to get all the permits required for this construction. They got the pool permit, but neglected to get the permit for the pavilion, and they constructed it. At the same time that process began, Mr. Manui applied to his homeowners association for permission for the pool and pavilion as is required by the covenants. Manor View Homeowners Association. By somewhat coincidence, his next door neighbor is on the board of the homeowners association, and he applied to the homeowners association for permission to do the pool and pavilion and deck. I have a copy of the application. If I believe it's in the file, but I have copies if anyone is interested. Particularly relevant is that the plan that he submitted to the homeowners association, and bear in mind, he thought Crystal Water Pools was getting the permits from the city, but the plan he submitted to the homeowners association clearly shows the pavilion outside the building line. There was no encroachment. So the intention was that the pavilion would be constructed lawfully and would not breach the building line. The pavilion was constructed, and after the construction was completed, he received notice of this violation. Apparently, 2 preliminary notices had been provided before Mr. Manui received his final notice, but they'd been provided to Crystal Water Pools, who didn't tell him about it. And so here we are. Crystal Water Pools was incorrectly constructed, or incorrectly placed the pavilion, and neglected to tell Mr. Manui that there was an issue about it until the project had been completed. The pavilion cost $60,000. And so we are asking that this violation be excused, if that's probably not the legal word, but that a variance be granted for these reasons. In the file, are there photographs of the pavilion?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we have it.
Okay. One set of photographs you can see shows the pavilion, shows the pool, shows the back of the house. The other set of photographs is an aerial picture, which shows the pavilion. I'm sorry. Oh, you got an Elmo. Oh, excellent.
Those are all in their packet, just for the record.
Well, just so we can follow along. Let's see, does Elmo go up? Yeah.
Charlie, did you see Tara? Get Christian.
Maybe turn it sideways.
Yeah,
There we are.
and you point over there so that they can see.
Yes. You can see the pavilion right here. And you can also see a very large screening of trees along the property line with the neighbor, which shields the pavilion from any sight by the neighbor. Also on the front, there is a fence and screening, which partially obscures the backyard of Mr. Manui's property from the street. So we are submitting that the project, there's another picture. You can see the trees are approximately twice the height of the little pavilion. And so if the neighbor had any issue, and I suggest she does not, because she is the member of the board of the homeowners association that accepted and approved this application made to the homeowners association. But if there
Could
were,
I clarify one thing?
I'm sorry, sir.
Could I clarify one thing?
Yes, sir.
The application made to the homeowners didn't show it 9 foot out of place, though. Or is that, will you correct me if you would? You said she knew it because she was on the homeowners, but it's my understanding the application of homeowners showed it in bounds where it should be, and it was built out of bounds.
It did.
But my point, there was a little legal point there I wanted to cover.
Yes, sir.
So when she approved it, it was not out of over the property line, over the setback line.
That's correct.
Okay, I
That's
just
correct.
wanted to, so your
But
comment,
the-
she should have known it.
Well,
She,
the intention was that it be properly located.
so she didn't know it was going to be built out of place.
I'm not suggesting that she knew at the time.
Okay,
I'm simply, now, going forward, the construction of the pavilion took several months, and she's next door. If she had had any objection, I would have thought she would have raised them at that time. Except that she probably couldn't see them because they're so well screened.
That's also, I mean, that's not her, that's not on her to know exactly what's going on with her neighbor's building. I mean, if my neighbor were that into what I was building, I'd tell them to mind their own business. But the fact is, to Charlie's point, what the board approved, whether it was her or not, is not what was built. And what was built is out of bounds for what the homeowners association would approve or what we would approve.
And I'm not suggesting that the city is bound by what the homeowners association did. I'm simply saying that is conclusive evidence of Mr. Manui's intention, good faith intention, and had the crystal water pools done what they were supposed to do, the issue would not be before us. So we are submitting that a variance is appropriate because the location of the pavilion, first of all, the pavilion is a well-constructed, I wouldn't say it's beautiful, but it's an attractive structure. There's nothing unattractive about it. It is screened. It is screened from the neighbor. It is screened from the street. Leaving it there will do no harm to the safety or welfare or benefit of the community, and to remove it would cost Mr. Manui $20,000-$30,000 to remove it, and another $60,000 to reinstall it 8 feet over, 6 feet over. All of which meet the standards for variation, there being a substantial detriment, accomplishing respectfully nothing of substance to move that little building a few feet over. So now, if additional screening on the front, I don't think you could have any more on the side, but if additional screening on the front is necessary or required, we certainly can do that. But the point of all of this was Mr. Manui had good intentions. He thought his project was being constructed properly and located properly. And to require that it be removed is overly harsh, accomplishing nothing. I suspect if you move that building a few feet over, no one would know it. If this body has questions, we'd be glad to answer
I
those
have one
questions.
question. Were the
Yes, sir.
screening trees, as big as they are, were they there prior to the cabana being built?
Bruno,
Yes,
were the trees there before the pavilion?
before the pavilion,
Yeah.
they were very small, we planted more.
Okay, but they were, as big as they are, they've had to be there 5, 6, 7
There
years.
were three there, but we planted more. Because
Right.
we want some privacy with the neighbors. We planted.
Privacy goes both ways.
So I just, as we talk to you, we're going to recommend to BZA on what we think. But you brought up the homeowner 2 or 3 times next door that she should have known. Well, with those big screening trees that you talk about, that you can't even see the cabana, the lady next door would, unless she trespassed and measured, she would have never known it was in the wrong place.
I did not mean she had any legal obligation to know.
Okay, but
My point
as
is,
you go forward,
if
BZ
it were obnoxious, offensive to her during the construction period, she would have known. The fact that she did not, during the construction period, say anything about it simply indicates that during construction, it was not offensive to her. And of course, now it should not be offensive to her. She can't even see it.
I'm just trying to be helpful. When you go to BZA, I wouldn't bring all that up because if it was me and I found out later, it isn't about whether she could see it or not. It's just in the wrong place. And you're making decisions for her. And part of our role is to see both sides and to see, can I finish? And so numerous times we brought up what's wrong with the homeowner next door, when truthfully, all the issue resides with your client.
The reason for that, sir, was the issue of whether this structure in its location has a detrimental effect on the neighbors or the neighborhood. And it, as I say, that's the reason that we brought up the fact that apparently it had no detrimental effect on her. And it's obvious to see why it did not, because it's so well screened.
Is the neighbor here?
Yes.
Okay. All right. If there's nothing else, we would like to hear from the neighbor and the opposition
Thank you, sir.
and hear her speak for herself. Could you come forward? Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Hi.
State your name and address and then.
Sure. My name is Abby Ming. I live at 2925 Manorville Lane, and I'm the adjacent neighbor. So first of all, can you hear me? I hope, okay. First of all, thank you all board members for giving me this opportunity to express my opinions on this matter. I truly appreciate that. So as you know, we are the only and directly impacted neighboring property owner. I'm here tonight to strongly oppose this variance request because of the following reasons. First, Milton has setback rules, and those rules have their own purpose of protecting Milton rural heritage. And this 6.6 foot or 26% encroachment has destroyed the purpose and also our enjoyment of our life. And also, Mr. Manoa, as you can, we live in subdivision, and with Mr. Manoa has a 1 acre lot. And this 1 acre lot is a buildable lot, and this lot has no exceptional conditions. His 1 acre rectangular lot is relatively flat, as you can see from the picture, and the pavilion could be reasonably built in the backyard without encroaching the 25 feet setback. Building a pavilion at this current location shows disregard for public interest. And as you can see, 6.6 feet or 26% encroachment is not an honest mistake. This is a complete ignorance of public rules. And thirdly, the pavilion has severely impacted our quality of life. Our right to peaceful and quiet enjoyment of our property has been infringed. We can no longer comfortably work on and enjoy our property due to noise and the cooking smell from pavilion. We moved here about 8 years ago. We have been living here peacefully until 2 years ago these things happened. Lastly, the encroachment will negatively impact our property value. Potential buyers looking for a quiet place to live will be turned away due to the close proximity of the structure. So tonight, I'm here. I respectfully request the board to enforce the 4 conditions of the variance approval set forth by the city of Milton. Nothing more. Allowing this variance will set a dangerous precedent for residents to violate code ordinances and force the board to accept established violations. Your decision is crucial in protecting Milton's rural heritage and ensuring residents follow public rules. And also, I'd like to read a letter from our HOA president. It has come to our attention that Mr. Bruno Manu of 2935 Manorville Lane has applied for a variance for the side setback of his pavilion post-construction. Our records indicate that the board approved Mr. Manu's pavilion on February 19, 2022, based on his submitted plan, which indicated that pavilion would measure 8 feet by 8 feet and not encroach upon the side setback. We have determined that pavilion built by Mr. Manu differ significantly from the approval plan in both size and location, which is a violation of our CCNRs. Mr. Abby Ming of 2925 Manorville Lane, the adjacent neighbor, has also raised concerns regarding her signature on our neighbor acknowledgement form, NAF. Please note that NAF is a requirement for all community architecture modification requests and serve only to inform adjacent neighbor of the project. The NAF does not serve as approval for the project. I just listened to the presentation done by this gentleman here. I'd like to clarify a few points. Just now, the board asked when those trees got planted. Those trees were planted by the builder a few years ago.
How many years ago?
Almost 8 years ago. Yeah, because you can see the mature size of that. Yeah. So again, as a adjacent neighbor, we do not object anything that neighbor would like to do. It's not our business. We don't put out noise into their daily life. But what we are requesting is they follow the rules. So if they prefer to build a pavilion, that's their right to do so. But they shall follow the rules set forth by City of Milton. As far as variance approval, I really expect all the board members to really look into those 4 conditions of the variance approval, those which needs to be met at the same time.
Let me ask you a question. I hear you. We all hear you. Is there anything he could do for you to feel better? More plantings, more landscaping? Is there anything that would make you happy? What about an opaque fence down there? What could make you happy, if anything?
Sir, for me is that, and I do this myself, I don't build my personal pleasure at expense of my neighbors and at expense of public rules. So what will make me happy is to see every citizen in city of Milton will follow the rules. Otherwise, you are requesting exceptions to exceptions, then there's no rules to be followed. So that's my position.
Here's what I still would like to ask, is there anything, we have lots of these cases. I've been on this board 5 years and probably have seen 100 accidents, mistakes. Sometimes I honestly don't think they're accidents, they're intentional, and then they ask for forgiveness by a variance. But if there's any way we can find peace where you're happy and he's happy, I think BZA would enjoy knowing that when this case moves to them.
Okay.
So, which is horrible, 3 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet? At what point does it get to be really bad? And in a 25-foot buffer, 26%, I think you said, is pretty substantial. But would an opaque fence on your side of the trees make you happy? That would help knock down the noise. It would give you more privacy, because I would just mention to you, I'm a builder, developer of 50 years. And I've had this happen to me. The problem is really with the swimming pool company, not you and not probably the owner. But if that pavilion moves over 6 feet, you're going to hear the same noise you're going to hear now, and you're going to hear the same things. And so you may lose at BZA, and he may win. We don't know. The board hasn't rung in yet on what they want to do. But if there was any compromise we could get here, that where both of you can resolve this, because it is Milton's history to do some variances and make those choices and decisions. They're hard decisions, and somebody's unhappy when the decision gets made. If there's any way we can make both of you happy, that would be good. Would the fence make you happy?
Sir, to answer your question, opaque fence is not allowed in our community. So that's should be, our community only allows for 4-bar farm style fence, because to make that's a Milton tradition and the style. And what would be, and I live there. So when I'm the only person can feel the suffering. So when I can see through from between trees, and when I have my gardens by the fence, and when I work there, they sit right there in the pavilion. It's just sit right in front of me. So I don't think why they can enjoy their pavilion, and at the same time I have to suffering. Well, I did nothing wrong. And
What if-
there's one picture actually shows that I have a pergola in my yard. As you can see, I built my pergola within the extended sideline of my home. So I fulfill both actual requirements in the city. So that's far away from the neighbors, because when I built it, I kept that in mind, the public rules in my mind. So another thing I'd like to bring up is that, as Mr. Manu stated in his appeal, it says the pavilion location that we drew by hand on the set plan and submitted with HOA approved application attached shows that it meets the required setback distance, which was our attention. So I would ask Ms. Monroe a question: if that's ever their attention to only build 8 by 8 feet pavilion without encroachment, So is this only their contractor's decision to build a pavilion, which is over 300, more than 300% bigger than they agreed upon the size? So if that is case, that will be a significant breach of contract. He should bring this issue up with his contractor instead of request city to issue this unreasonable variance.
Right, that's a good point. What size is the cabana now?
Cabana is 16 by 13.3. I don't know, is that correct?
16 by 30?
And also I'd like to point,
16 by 13.
16 by 30.
yeah, and also when
I
he
think that's
submit,
an important point. You should make sure we're discussing that now, but when you get to BZA, put that in your opening remarks.
Charlie,
Right.
to kind of to her point though, too, like the cabana is within bounds, but the pool's not even in the same spot on the hand-drawn one as the actual. Like it's in the middle of the house, maybe even to the right on the hand-drawn one, and it goes all the way to the left side of the house in reality. So, I mean, to me, the issue is with the pool company that just didn't, like, something was approved and they did something else. Like,
Let's close the public hearing.
there's one more, if you will allow me, there's one more last, I promise. As you can see, he presented this one neighbor acknowledgement form and provides my approval, which actually is acknowledgement only. But on this, it says 16 by 13. That's at the same time, he submitted a plan to the board and it shows 8 by 8.
Okay.
So I don't know, is this a coincidence that he eventually built 16 by 13? Or just that he knew already, just to mislead the board by providing the information only 8 by 8.
All right, let's close the public hearing. And Ken has done some work on this, and I'd like to hear from Ken. He's gotten, is this the permitted drawing? So Ken, you want to ring in on what's there?
Yeah, so I have a couple questions for staff and then also for the applicant. Does the city have the authority to grant an administrative variance for a non-enclosed structure within the side setback?
Yes, but only for 10% of encroachment.
10%. Okay, so technically they could get
0.5.
2.5 feet. So we're talking about 4 feet.
0.5 feet.
Yes, but 4 additional feet to the 6.6.
yeah.
Okay. My next question is to the applicant do you have, what I would suggest, okay, is, typically I'm a contractor as well. And usually when I do something like this, I have a contract, and that contract has all pertinent documents, whether it be contract, pricings, budgets, site plans, dimensions, drawings. I don't see any of that in the packet. What I do see and what I asked staff for was the approved pool permit, which they've provided for us, which does not show a cabana at all. It does not show the deck structure or anything like that. So just going off that, the cabana was never even legally allowed to be constructed. And I understand that the pool contractor may have taken it upon himself, but my question to you is do you have a contract with that pool contractor that shows the cabana, that shows the
Yes,
site
sir.
plan that?
The pool company, when we signed the contract for the package, to build the package of pool, deck, and cabana, they told us that they would take care of the paperwork, the permits. So they did the permit for the pool. And later, we didn't even know that they didn't do the permit for the cabana, and we didn't know that they didn't do for the deck. We only knew when we received the letter from the city that the distance setback, there's a problem with the distance setback and there's no permit for the cabana. We tried to reach out I tried to reach out to the pool company. They're not picking up the phone. I received the final notice from the city. I never received the first notice, the second notice. It seems the city had contacted the pool company They never responded. Then I received a final notice and I called the attorney. The attorney said he contacted the city staff for the law enforcement, and they told him that they gave him 30 days to remediate the violation, to remediate the setback distance. We waited for 30 days. That was in September. We waited for 30 days. I got another call from the city that the pool company has done nothing to do the variance. So I came to the city, I met with Mr. Michael Cardamon, and I met with Mr. Chris William. I explained the situation. I wasn't aware about it, and that wasn't my intention. My drawing, the hand drawing of the location of the cabana that you just saw here, when I applied to the HOA, it shows that it meets the requirement. I didn't have the intention to build something that is non-conforming. I have no interest to do that. So I came and met Mr. Michael and Mr. Chris William, and I asked them, tell me what I need to do, because I'm not familiar with the system. So Mr. Michael, he guided me through the process of variance. I work with him all the time. I hire a civil engineering firm to do the building plan for the deck, the building plan for the cabana. And we got the permit for the cabana, and we got the site inspection. Everything is completed. It's not in the file, but I think I gave it to Mr. Michael.
It's in the packet.
Yeah. It's very painful because I'm doing their work. And then I also submitted for the variance. I got the land surveyor who came to my property to do the land survey. Mrs. Abe called the police on him just because he asked her the permission to use the shared property borderline to place his equipment to take the measurement. Mrs. Abe refused, but he still went ahead and did his work. She called the police. The police came and checked his ID, and the police left. Nothing. So when I came out from the house, because I work from home, I was inside the house. Then when
Can I interrupt a minute?
Sure, sir.
I've closed the public hearing
Okay.
already. And this is beginning to be a lot of hearsay and things that really don't pertain
I'm
to the
sorry.
variance.
So
And so we're going to continue. The public hearing's closed. Any more discussion from the board?
There's not it's starting to get more of a civil thing. There's not an ongoing civil
okay.
suit or anything like that.
Did I answer your question, sir, or not?
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're legally able to.
Did I answer your question about the site plan, building plan? Okay. For the cabana, it's already there.
Yeah.
At what point did it go from 8 to 8 to the bigger one?
It's because when you design something, you don't see it on the paper. So I thought 8 by 8 will be when it was on the paper, right? So when we started to construct the cabana, I saw it was very small, because on the paper for me, I didn't really feel what it looks like. But when they dig the ground and I started to see the boundary, I said, oh, this is too small. Maybe you should.
Can I ask a question again?
Yes, sir.
My question was, at what point in the process did it go from an 8 by 8 to the bigger one?
It's after they started to dig the ground, to do the framing, the ground foundation framing.
Was the pool already in?
The pool was already built. The cabana was built after the pool.
Okay.
The pool was
I
already
think that's
built.
all I needed to know. And
Sure,
I
thank
want the
you.
board to ring in with any other discussion they have.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
just for the information, we do require them to have separate permits for pool, cabana, separate permit, deck, separate permit. But they're allowed to show everything on the same, they can use the same site plan to show everything. But they didn't show it here. So we had no idea until somebody complained about it or the inspector told us that there is a cabana, which is not permitted. And cabana is still not permitted because they have to get the variance before they get a permit.
Understood.
All right, this is a tough one, so let's hear from y'all.
I mean, my thought is if this had come to us before it had been built, we would have said, no, put it somewhere else.
Yeah, there's plenty of room to
I mean,
slide that thing over. I
that
think it
would've-
was just built after the fact without a permit. I don't know what else to
Which
say
is,
about it.
complicates the situation and certainly makes it very unfortunate. Would have been a hard no otherwise.
Both of you are taking a risk when you go to BZA. Again, I'd appeal to you for 6 feet to see if you couldn't find something that made you happy with more shrubbery.
4 feet.
Maybe your HOA will let you do
4 feet.
Huh?
4 feet. Staff can grant it.
But the 10% hadn't been granted either, technically.
well,
I just want to jump
Staff-
in.
But staff could do that.
Yeah, only with neighbor support, though.
Yeah.
You need
Oh.
neighbor support to do the
So
admin.
never mind. 6.
yeah, I didn't think that was quite right. So it's 6 feet, 6 foot, 6 inches maybe.
Hmm.
And that's the issue. There's a whole lot of issues on you all's side without a plan, without a permit. You've got a building out there that should be torn down because you didn't get a permit. Period. That's not the presentation you made about this accident and this and this. It was never permitted. That's pretty serious. And if we as a board and the BZA board, if we allow people to build buildings and then, oh, I'm sorry, can I get a permit and fix this? We'd have a mess all over Milton. So it's a really more serious even than the 6 foot 6 inches. A building is built without a permit is really a bad thing, however it happened. Whoever's to blame, the city, the municipality has trouble accepting that. So that's what bothers me the most. If it was permitted and we knew it was coming and they met all the rules and it was permitted and got built out 6 feet, I'd be more compassionate about all your presentation, Mr. Lawyer, about hardship, but it was never permitted. So there's no hardship here. It's illegal building is my problem.
Yeah, I think the issue, I think it's probably perceived we're the path of least resistance to get this approved is to come, or actually BZA, and get BZA to grant the exception, and then everything's all good. When in reality, the issue isn't with the city. The issue is with the pool company or the builder of the cabana that just didn't do right. Right? And they didn't build it within the parameters they should have. Didn't get
Correct. That's why I asked
They
if this
didn't-
was
didn't do
civil.
any of those
Th-
steps.
To me, this is more of a civil issue.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
probably should be handled in that manner. But for us, looking at what is and what should have been and what was done incorrectly, I hate it, but I can't support something that is done in this manner.
Public meetings closed, may I say?
You need to go to the microphone. If we're going to let you speak, we need to record it. Please.
And in response to what you said, it is correct that a permit was not obtained for the pavilion. But when Mr. Manuif learned that a permit had not been obtained, he applied for the permit, and it has been, the building has been inspected, subject to this body and the city's approval overall. But I didn't want you to think that we've come here and without any effort at all to permit.
I don't think any of us think that your client intentionally did anything wrong. We think it's the pool company, because, I mean, I think two of us up here are builders. The rest of us are not. We've had things built, and I would totally agree. I'm at the mercy of my builder when they do something, because I don't have a clue what they're doing. I don't have time for me to be the GC on their project where they're GCing it. So I assume they do everything correctly, right? And if they don't, that's on them. That's not on me.
I understand,
But it
and
comes
I
back on me
never
because I'm the property
discourage,
owner.
Litigation to be involved in, because that's what I do mostly. But, I'm, please understand, I'm not arguing. Does this serve any real benefit to have building torn down, built up, rebuilt, a lawsuit with a builder and so forth. Has the city benefited in any significant way that way?
As chairman, that is not the question on the table.
Understand.
I hate
The,
that, but that's
the,
true.
the neighbors, wait a minute. What you just said is not something we're going to even look at or think about, and I don't think BZA is either. A neighbor has rights, and they rely on the building setbacks, and they rely on the property lines and the title on their property. That's the problem here. That's the case we've got to decide. Is there a variance here that we should grant or recommend? And the BZA is going to do that. And the problem is, you know, I'm real touchy about my property, and if Scott got in my buffer, I'd be unhappy. And if Brian built something too close to me, I'd be unhappy. I mean, we all would. And so that's the issue here. Not, I'm sorry, and it's a lawsuit, or it's the pool builder. It's just a gross, I mean, from going from 8x8 to bigger to no permit. I mean, at some point, the homeowner needs a lawyer, or you need to know what your contractor's doing. And so that's my issue. I think we're about to be done. We've closed the public hearing. I did want you to respond.
I appreciate it. Thank
Charlie,
you very
can I
much.
just, one more, just,
Yes,
Doug, I want to say one thing. I've stood at that podium as the builder on many occasions, 50 years. I hear your needs and your problems. I hear hers. You know, both of you are in not a good place. She has been, in essence, trespassed against by being 6 foot. The buffer is meant to be quiet. The buffer is meant to set things back. She feels she's been violated. You all have all your problems. This is a really tough case. Then I would say, I don't disagree with you that tearing it down is really a hardship. That's why I'm trying to see if she can find something, maybe a monetary. You all should talk. Maybe a monetary amount of money to her saves all that problem. Because I can see both sides. The board sees both sides. But she has been violated, not you. The errors are on your side of the fence, not hers. That's where I come down.
and my only, like, other, I guess, advice to you would be, I would not put out there to question whether or not she's been harmed or not, because if she says she has, none of us can argue that. Whether we agree with it or not, it's in the setback that's up against her property, and none of us can say right or wrong whether or not she's really experienced any harm. If she says it's causing me a problem, it's too close, and it's in a setback, then that's the right answer,
Well,
right?
I appreciate that. The
And
only
the
reason I
BZA
said
would
that,
probably tell you the same thing, so I'm just giving you that advice.
the 4 standards in the variance application include harm to the neighbor and the public. And that's why I mentioned that. It's one of your standards.
All right, again, this is a real difficult one. We've closed the public hearing. Let us get our recommendation done, and we'll send it on to BZA.
I've heard for many years the old saying, you probably have as well, hard cases make bad law. So,
I'm not a lawyer. I've never heard that, so.
but you understand it.
I just feel bad for both of you. I think the whole board does.
I've represented builders all my career. I understand where you're coming from.
All right.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
So the board needs to discuss this, and Michael, this one needs to be written up better than some I've seen, because there's a lot here that we've spent 48 minutes working on, and both sides have a lot of feelings here, and this is a difficult one. So whatever the board has to say, we want it lengthily written up for BZA.
Understood.
All right? We'll start at this end. We'll just go all the way down the board here.
For me, I think that the size is pretty substantial, like from going from that size to that size, like from that front view, you can see it. So like we said, is there a way to hide that you can see that from the front? So that to me is, I think the other neighbors would see that. And then the whole process of it, which I know it's, he said, she said, whose fault is it? It's just, you know, one of those things that's not good, but the size just looks big from the front, from that one picture for me.
Would you recommend to BZA to deny it or to approve it?
Well, if there was some way to meet in the middle, like I said, with the, trees, but if there's not, then I would probably deny it.
Okay, so deny. And by the way, you're 30 days from BZA. You all can meet, talk, and try to get to a resolution. Oh,
2
2
weeks.
weeks? Okay, 2 weeks.
Yeah, if there's a resolution, that'd be great. It's just
So
big.
that's what I'm appealing to, having done this my whole life. There ought to be a common ground. If you lose, it's a big problem and it's not granted. And if they take their side and grant it as the Mr. Lawyer thinks they should, then you're where you are. Again, this is one that ought to get settled by you all. Two people involved. We don't want to decide this for you, and I know BZA doesn't, but I will tell you, the rules are the rules, the laws are laws, and she's been violated. And it's all your fault that you encroached into her privacy buffer. It's on your property, but that's why we have setbacks. Okay?
Yeah, this is unfortunate because, I pride myself in my work and doing the right thing, permitting things. Far too often do I hear of the big bad builder, pool contractor, taking advantage of homeowners, doing things they shouldn't do illegally. But I also, being a builder, is I've had a lot of homeowners say, let's change this. Let's make it bigger. Let's do this. So I do see both sides, whereas for me, I follow the letter of the law. And so to me, it's more of a civil issue as far as what we're allowed to look at here and what the facts are. And what we're able to actually recommend on is the fact that this does not meet the criteria. It's over the setback. It's excessive over the setback. It was never permitted. The fault may lie on the pool contractor, but ultimately it's your property and it's your neighbor's property. I agree with Charlie with trying to find some median ground. Obviously, that's something this board, the BZA, and most boards and councils in the city want to try to see as an outcome. But looking at the facts, looking at what's been presented to us and what has perspired or transpired, I would move to recommend denial.
Yeah, I hate it for you guys. Hope you guys can come up with something, a solution in the meantime. Otherwise, it'd be a recommendation for denial for me.
Same. Super unfortunate. I would love if somehow something were to work out. I'm just thinking back to other issues we've had similar, like Saddlebrook Farms, where there was a barn that was built close to the back setback that they had already started building it. They hadn't gotten quite as far, but all the neighbors were like, yeah, it's beautiful. We're okay with that. So we were like, okay, we approve that. Or I'm thinking of the greenhouse in Six Hills that was right up against it. And all the neighbors are upset about it. And we were like, absolutely not. We want to support that. And so to me, the litmus test on some of these is, are your neighbors okay with it? Because that's really what the setbacks are meant to protect, or your immediate neighbors. And if the neighbor is this adamant against it, then I think we have to be the same. But we can't, if she's been violated, we can't deny that, whether you choose to believe it's legit or not. It is to her. And so I think we've got to have that. I think that's where I land. So I would vote to deny as well.
Casey?
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement on that. Very unfortunate situation considering it's already been constructed and cost of it was substantial. And I think it's going to be just as much, if not more, in my opinion, having it redone. But my recommendation, based on our criteria as this board, is to deny.
Thank you. I hope you work together the next 2 weeks. And staff's always available to help you and guide you, as Michael's done already. And so I wish you the best outcome. And we've sent ours, BZA's the final legal decision, and so they'll make the final decision after hearing our recommendations. All right, next case is item 6C. Is the applicant here?
Yes. Scott Reese.
Scott, let's hang on 1 minute as we clear the
Jeremy Russo.
Yeah. Oh, is this his place?
Yeah. Or one of the ones he owns.
I saw him. No, okay, I saw the name. Go to my church.
Go to that church now.
You been there?
We'll be going,
Okay.
within at least
Who's
4 or 5
Crystal?
times.
Awesome. Yeah, with Steven.
I'll get for you to tell me who's the best. All right.
Not him.
Next item is 6C. And this item is at 315 Blackberry Ridge Trail.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Scott Reese with Brumlow Reese and Associates, doing business at 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia, 30004. I'm here tonight representing Jeremy Russo and his application for a variance to reduce the front building line for 315 Blackberry Ridge Trail inside of a gated private community. And I'm emphasizing that to mean this is an insular community. So we're not asking for a variance for a front building line on Freemanville Road or Birmingham Highway. You have to be invited into the community through the gate to see this proposed house construction. So we hope you have a site plan that would demonstrate the reason that we are here. And you see those circles? I'm sorry, I did see those circles. There. So those circles represent specimen trees. And the critical root zone and structural root zone of said trees. This is a contract to build, and the applicant's potential buyer has their house plan, and this is what their dream plan was, and they and their architect thought it would fit on the house because it fits within the building setback lines. But then when they came to us and we went forward, I said, you have other things besides the building setback lines. We have these specimen trees, and they wanted to preserve those, and they had no idea there was such thing as a critical root zone or a structural root zone. So long story short, we are trying to preserve quality trees with this variance, and pulling the residents forward towards the street protects the rear and side setbacks and would allow the preservation of these trees. Okay, so I'm going to put my finger on the lot. What I have check marks here are letters of support from those owners. The builder has met with everyone else in there. We haven't had anyone that said they were in opposition, but we're not, as some people are not as forthcoming with letters as I would like. So I'm going to try before BZA to get support from a letter of support from everyone that touches the property. But I have a majority that, and I just wanted to demonstrate that. So I think you can see that there is a legitimate reason for asking for the variance. The hardship is if we set it within the building setback lines, we cut specimen trees. And I don't think anyone wants to do that unnecessarily. So I think I've generated enough. I thought about just building it without a permit, but then I thought maybe not. So and then I asked forgiveness, but you know. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to
Appreciate the
answer
levity.
those. Yes.
Okay. Any opposition?
No opposition.
Have you gotten any letters of opposition?
We have not.
So you haven't heard from the neighbor directly across the street?
Oh, we've met with the builder, and they have not signed a letter. They were not in opposition or did not state it at the time, showed them the site plan, everything. And some people are just not as forthcoming with letters as I would like.
So across the street, that was my concern too, directly.
Yeah.
In the back, you're pulling it forward, so they got to
Yeah.
be happy.
And sides, I get that.
Yeah.
So,
So it's the one across the street, and that is under construction?
yes,
So no, is that a contract house or?
yes, it
spec?
is.
So
Mr.
have you
Collins,
tried talking to the owner?
tried to talk, yes, I have. No stated opposition, but not a letter. So hopefully I will have that before BZA, or if there is an opposition, he'll let me know. Right now, I don't have that.
Okay, close the public hearing. And we'll get the input from the board.
What was the reason why they didn't just make a floor plan that would work within the boundary lines?
Chicken and the egg. House plan came first. We sat it on there because most architects build to building lines or design to building lines. And most architects like to build as big as possible. So that discovery was such.
From a civil point of view, you pointed out they could kill the trees.
Yes, sir.
So they got a house plan, it fits in the envelope, but it
Just
kills the trees.
Yeah.
The problem is too, that I deal with these homeowners, once they shepherd that baby, that house plan, and you try to take it away from them, they're not real happy with that. And I get you, find another lot, but there are not tons of lots in Milton. So, I mean, I do get, someone could state that this was a self-imposed hardship, but it was not in their intent to design a house that didn't fit.
The answer here, for me, my comment is saving the big trees is great. You've done a civil job and educated them to that. They're going to love the big trees. The people behind are going to love the big trees, especially since that looks like a drop lot. And so the real key is the builder across the street and working out something with him to get a letter. And then it would be an easy, yeah, we support this. So my comment, that I want all of you to ring in, is we send it on to BZA really with the only thing we would support it if he gets approval from the house across the street. And if he doesn't, then we're just going to leave it to BZA. I don't
wanna
think
be
we
the-
want to deny or recommend denial here. BZA's got to decide this one legally. And I'd be all for it if saving those big trees, everybody around the house is happier. In Milton, everybody talks about Milton's heritage, but we do like our big trees. And so you just need to get that. And Doug, what's your recommendation? If mine is, we would approve it if the
opposition.
owner is good with it across the street.
Can I?
If not, we're going to leave it to BZA.
Yeah, I would say
Yes,
so.
Can I
sir.
say something real quick? I think it's important to note as well that the house to the right of it is already closer to the street than the front setback.
Is it really?
Mhm.
That I was not aware of.
So the lot 7, actual fronts, it's on a corner. And lot 7,
Yes.
the front of it is on the corner side, so the opposite side of where this lot is,
Do
which
you mind to
is,
put that map back up, please?
So it's up there. So if I may, legally, when you have a corner lot, one is a corner setback and one is a frontage setback. So legally, that house, and that's part of,
Oh, I
you know,
see.
the scope. So that house is legally allowed to be closer because the front building line is the shorter of the frontages. And so that corner is 40? 40. So it's reduced in effect in real world. Thank you so much for catching that. That was a bad miss on my part.
so the house to the right of it only has a 40-foot setback from the street because it is technically a side street setback. So this house being directly next to it, the frontage is 60 foot. However, they're asking to move it forward. How many feet? 9 feet. It would still be back behind the house to the right of it, which is 40 feet from the front street, if that makes sense.
11 feet close.
Correct.
Right, do we have a better or additional recommendation to BZA?
I don't know if I have a recommendation. I just have a comment, and you may can educate me, Scott, on this. When you put 27-inch white oak and 27-inch tulip poplar, whoever puts this on there. I mean, I assume there's no way to just tell from anything that we're looking at right now, the health of those trees. I'd imagine that the variance that would be approved is more permanent than the trees are going to be long-term.
Yes, I mean, anytime you deal with specimen trees, they are technically on the backside, but these trees, so we have a two-part qualifiers. So quantitatively, size, qualitatively, and a licensed or certified arborist makes a determination that it is of specimen size and specimen quality, meaning it is in health that they expect its general livelihood.
Yeah.
So if it's
It's got
got
some
giant
years.
parts of decay or something, it would not be a specimen tree.
I
It would
gotcha.
meet the size, but not the qualities. So these trees meet both definitions. So we're expecting a long, fruitful life.
I understand.
You know, you should bring that up early, I think, at BZA. I wouldn't have thought of that if Reed wouldn't have brought it up.
And this was awful. I feel embarrassed. You guys, I overrun.
It's because you're considering coming back and begging for forgiveness.
Well, it's important.
So I think Reed made a really good point that you know these are specimens and meet both of those, and that's why you're trying to do this.
Yes.
That would have swayed me early. All right?
And possibly show the house to the right in that plan where it's closer to the street. I think that'll.
I'll have, I've got a PowerPoint, but we were, essence, to save you guys as much time as possible. I did not think it would be necessary to go through my fully detailed. But I live and learn. I would have been better off to do it correctly.
Casey.
I was going to say, I mean, I can make a recommendation right, if y'all want. Barring approval from the house across the street, I recommend that this variant is approved or move forward with BZA or however that. Considering the neighboring property is already 11 feet closer than their requested 9 feet variance.
I agree.
We're all good with that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then that's our recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
And
Thank
I
you.
will endeavor, what is the new word, effort, to have a letter of support. Thank you so much. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
So, we don't have any final reviews tonight. Our new business, we've had our first meeting on the district. Doug and I were there. It went well. The next meeting is when?
Thursday.
It's
Thursday.
Thursday.
Tomorrow.
I won't be at that one. This is the one that I'm going to miss. See, Scott. I will make a comment. I thought that there were more differing opinions than I expected, for sure.
Have you been to one of those before?
Well, but it's one of those things where I expected those that wanted to build to be all at one end and those that lived there to be all at the other end of the spectrum. And that's not the case. I've milled around and talked to folks after the fact, and there are absolutely people that live in that area that are like, build it all. This is awesome. And this one young lady in particular went to Milton High School, lived in Manhattan for like 6 years during the pandemic, moved back down here. And she's like, this is awesome. I can be in my hometown and walk everywhere I want to go. I was like, okay. And she goes, and you know what? Most of my neighbors feel that way. All right, well, then they need to show up and have an opinion at something like this, because those are like, that's the folks that live there. Those are the folks dealing with the congestion more than anybody else. So I was surprised that there was as many people that were on that side of the spectrum.
Milton only has 11% office retail space. 11%
Wow.
of their structures.
Mm-hmm.
There's a definite need for retail office in the city of Milton. It's a question of whether or not, or where it's supposed to go.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is where it's destined. And I think it's good that they're holding public hearings to actually say, what do we want that to look like?
I think another overarching theme was, while folks may not want for there to be any more building, They didn't want any more townhomes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Mm.
Like that was pretty loud and clear.
I'm glad they moved away from town.
It was
What's that?
no
I'm
density.
glad they said no to town.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
good
was,
God,
that was
please.
pretty loud. But kind of to your point and to her name's Bailey's point, like they want to walk to go shop and to eat and to all those things. And I agree. I think having more businesses, office space brings more business to the businesses. That's their lunch traffic. That's, you know, everything else. So I thought it was interesting. I thought the guys that ran it, what's that firm called?
ESW.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job. I thought the breakout of kind of 3 different areas where people could mill around and have more open dialogue and express their concerns, I thought that was really well done too.
Yeah, I was in attendance, and their technology was pretty superb. They allowed, live interaction with the crowd, and you got to see exactly what people were thinking about it.
So that's what that was.
Yeah.
Because every picture that the city posted on social media and in the, online and all that was every single person is looking at their phone except for Charlie. Charlie's just,
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's,
everybody-
I thought everyone was just bored out of their minds.
That's what I
so I'm
thought
glad
too.
you
That's
said
what I
that.
thought.
I'm sorry I missed it. I'll be there
You're either
Thursday,
reading
but-
the question and you're zooming in on exactly what they're talking about and what the options are, and then you're typing in your answer.
Got it. Okay.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
it's
was
called
strange to
Menti-
see that. I thought everyone was just bored to death.
I got to
It's
say
called
though, from a
Mentimeter. It's a
Yeah.
live survey. We have
Mhm.
used it actually before for Complan also.
Okay.
from a design standpoint, if that's what we're talking about, I didn't like any of the plans.
Oh.
I mean, they're
Yeah.
all
They,
just
they were
front,
meant to
they
be
front
meant-
townhouse.
they were meant to show you how bad it could go.
Yes, and
Oh,
they
so
did a
that-
good job.
So, okay, so we're about to see how
Well-
good it can go
Yeah.
tomorrow, Thursday.
Yes.
It was also meant to
That's
say,
good.
this is what we did in 2016, and this is what was planned in 16.
Yeah,
That was to say,
And my daughter's
We're
supposed to
here.
lacrosse game.
the proposed district is here.
this is what they can do.
Here's what we planned in 16,
Yeah,
and they can do.
Yeah.
And then where are we going? You're going to see a pretty significant change in progress in this next
well,
meeting.
that's good.
Barring needing our approval for demo, they could do everything that was proposed building
Well, I'm
wise.
glad they're
And they
paid.
tried to make it kind of be like, hey, listen, this is how bad it could be. You're right, they did a good job because I didn't like any of them.
So, in full disclosure, I knew what was happening, and I was whispering my thoughts in Sarah's ear. So
She was-
Sarah, and she was
okay.
doing all the technology work, and I was just listening and saying, no, here's what we like.
You were the only one, Charlie, out of the entire audience with your head up. Everyone else had their.
So they did. So it'd be some real great progress. Bob and I've worked on some things, and so I think you're going to see it begin to be, and of course, the nucleus is that the 3 homes be saved, which we're not worried about. It's save all the buildings, Milton's, Cotton Gin, Bike Shop, and the Broadwell building. We talk about just the 3 houses, and now we're really down to 2 because the florist has sold to some guys that are going to do a salon, and they're really excited about keeping their building.
Mhm.
So that's happening, and they're in and have been approved for some plans to upgrade their building, right?
They're not in yet.
They're not what?
No plans are in yet, but there's a talk about interior renovation. It's nothing exterior because we can't do exterior.
Is,
No permits.
Is it going to be recorded?
Huh?
Will this be recorded Thursday?
Thursday
Yes.
will be recorded, but Thursday is a design session, which means it's more interactive on the floor.
I hate that I'm missing
So
that.
I know.
You can
the
FaceTime you.
2 remaining buildings, the bike shop and the other one, are they registered for the historic landmark or no?
Nothing in there
Feel
is
bad for you.
historically landmarked.
Okay.
And let's change a term that we've been evolving to. We're not trying to do a historic district, a character area.
Yep.
And the character of Milton, this is the most character area we have in Milton left. And so it's a character area. We're not trying to get anything historically registered
Mhm.
and just get the buildings saved and what's the word?
Design around them.
But
Yeah.
what's the right word when you readapt a building?
Yeah.
Reconstitute.
So, and out back of these buildings, you can add a new wing if you wanted to, and you don't have to meet the old look. So
Open it up,
anyway,
make a nice little.
try to make Thursday or watch it. And
I'll
So
be-
4
I'll be
o'clock.
here.
4 o'clock?
it's at 4 to 6.
It's right here, correct?
My hand.
Yes.
4 to 6.
Okay.
Point for
I
sure.
can come in first.
And as we do our jobs up here, you want to hurry these meetings because I'd never sat for 2 hours in those chairs, and they're very uncomfortable chairs.
Yes.
If we had 20 people tonight, I was going to get Scott moved up front so he could leave. But I told the city manager, after 2 hours, the customer needs better chairs. Let me give you one more little bit of new business. So I'll be on record here that this, in my 5 years, is the best board DRB's had, the most talent. And that's exciting for me. I want to finish the district because I've been 2 years on getting it to where it is. And it's now a runaway train going great places, I believe. And I want to finish that in July or August. And I intend to resign in October. The city manager's aware of that. Bob is aware of it, and so is Peyton and Paul. And I'm Andrea's appointee, and I'll be telling her shortly. And I've been here, it will be 5 years. Been a lot of fun, especially with you.
A good time.
And I'm excited. I want to tell you now because I want to see you really, like you did tonight, take charge. I'm going to sit where you are, let you be chairman a couple of times. And I'm going to let you be chairman a couple of times. Doug, and let this transition great. I was blessed to have Laura Wysong sit beside her for 3 years and learned a lot. He beat me up all the time for being too strict. But I learned to be softer, but then Ken came along. So don't sit by Reed.
I'm trying to be fair.
Don't sit by Reed or you'll get softer. Because he's Mr. Wonderful and Mr. Oh. So it's been a great 4.5 years, soon to be 5. You'll know when I say, Doug, why don't you be chairman tonight? And Reed has said he does not want to be chairman or vice chairman. Is that still correct?
100%.
So, and you'll be having an election in October because when I resign, you'll have to have an election. And I just want you planning on that. I like transition. I like to have a plan. I want the council and staff to know what I'm doing. I told these two earlier tonight. And I've got some things I would like to do in Milton. You do 5 years of this and you'll have other things. I think BZA, DRB, and Planning Commission is a great place for our future leaders to serve and grow and learn. I was very rule-oriented and law-oriented, and Reed, I was kidding, but now I'm being serious. After a year or so, you get a lot more compassion, and like I was trying tonight, oh, one of y'all is going to lose, and you both can win here. And I didn't want anybody to win. Well, I would have been more, here's the rule 5 years ago. So now everybody knows that. It's out in the public domain, and I've had a great time. Looking forward to some other things. Sarah and I have been here 5 years. Most of you have been here a lot longer than we have. We want to do some charity work in Milton, and we got 2 or 3 charities we want to work with. And I've got a few other things that I'm interested in doing. And again, I'm going to leave it in great hands. Best group we've ever had in my 4 years. And I just want that resignation to be quick and easy, and you guys elect a new chairman, vice chairman, and then roll on. And it's hard we had your open seat for 2 years, I think, and before we had an open seat for a long time. And so everybody has plenty of time to start thinking about what we're doing. So the board is fully staffed, and the team is trained and knowledgeable in what you do. And whether it's this board or any of the boards, our city council, the city council person that's not been involved in government is 2 or 3 years really learning what's going on. And we have this great, big, little city. And the future for me, my wife, and I have a 3-year-old grandson in Milton living here now. And I'm about to have a granddaughter in 6 weeks.
Oh, awesome.
And I want them, and we'll financially make it where it's impossible for them to leave. Because where can you be in America?
Would they be considered golden handcuffs for your family?
Blackmail.
Golden handcuffs.
But where in America can you live seriously better than Milton? And we were in Sandy Springs, we could have moved anywhere. But Milton is really special. And as I talked to some of the city council and everybody, it is all about the leadership. I've spent 50 years working in municipalities. And the people get elected and they come and go. And one of my worries about the district that I brought up with the city manager and Bob and council members the other day is Bob's going to be gone one day. I'm gone one day. Peyton's gone one day. And who gets elected? So it's really important that this group, I love that for the ones of you that have been here a long time, Juliet, you, Reed, Casey, because you know it the way it was. And it needs to stay the way it was. More subdivisions, we're going to have less and less horse farms because the land's so valuable. But even with less horse farms and less big acreages, the quality of life and the quality of Milton is in your hands going forward. I'm just going to be watching and sitting out there on my 18 acres, not wanting anybody to encroach on me. So I don't want you to give a lot of variances unless you call me. And so I do think all of those things are important. And this group really understands it. So that's what's going to happen at the meeting in October.
Thanks for the heads up.
Thank
Please
you.
all come. Please, everybody.
For your service. too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
That's a good long time to be serving the city. So thank you.
Mhm.
you're welcome. It's been great. And the team really is going to do good. So, all right, there we go.
Great.
And with that, no old business, and I guess we've covered some old business with the district. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
We'll make a motion to adjourn.
Any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.